Hey, Utah Mammoth fans, Tusks up, and welcome into your Utah Mammoth Daily. So let's talk about Nate Schmidt. I've said been a really good signing, a really solid signing, that Utah is getting a really good player, which I know isn't hard-hitting journalism. It's pretty obvious, but let's get to know him a little bit. The Mammoth didn't sign him for highlight reel goals. They signed him for 741 career games of steady NHL experience. He's logged almost 19 minutes a night across 12 seasons, including 3 different playoff runs with Vegas. He also has that playoff run with the Panthers. His career best year was back in 2017 when he posted 36 points and a plus 19 plus minus with the Golden Knights. But here's the kicker. Schmidt hasn't played fewer than 60 games in a full season since 2016. On a roster with young defensemen, coming up, obviously, you can't really call Ian Cole, Olli Mata, even Mikhail Sergachev, John Marino that young. But Sean Durzee's still kind of young. And then you got Dmitry Simashev and Maverick Lamoureux, also kind of young. They're still finding their way a little bit. Having a reliable veteran, that's not just Sergei, who eats minutes, is massive. So Utah didn't just buy a defenseman. They bought stability. What else have they bought this offseason? Well, with Turbo Tanev, I love Brandon Tanev. Just watching a lot of his highlights on YouTube, so much fun. He's got so much energy. He seems like he's a very funny guy. I think he's going to fit in very well. I'm very excited about Turbo Tanev, and he is the guy you'll notice every shift, every time he's on the ice. He has 552 career games, 84 goals, and 180 points. But it's his forecheck and penalty killing, which Utah desperately needs, that will make him a fan favorite. In Seattle, he put up a career-high 21 assists and 41 points a couple years ago in 2022, showing he could chip in offensively. But more importantly, he's a workhorse, averaging 13 to 14 minutes a night on those lower lines, always finishing checks, always buzzing. Utah needs that spark plug on the bottom 6 other than spicy tuna. And remember, Tanev has 5 shorthanded goals in his career, so don't be surprised if he flips a game with one of those hustle plays that gets the whole building, roaring, rocking, get the Delta Center at new decibel levels for the Delta Center is what I'm looking for here. Now, there's something interesting happening this preseason. Since the Delta Center isn't quite ready yet, it's getting close, and it will be ready for the regular season. Some of the preseason games are going to be on the road, like against the Colorado Avalanche, and other teams. But there's an interesting one that's happening up in Boise, Idaho. So circle this preseason game against the Kings in the Idaho Central Arena. This isn't just another exhibition. It's a test of the Mammoth's regional pull. And the Idaho Central Arena, interesting name for an arena, but, is home to the ECHL's Idaho Steelheads, who are a feeder team of the Texas Stars, who are ultimately a feeder team of the Dallas Stars. So I guess you call them the Double-A team for Dallas. The Idaho Steelheads pack that 5,002-seat arena. That's their official listing for how many people they can fit for a hockey game. And they actually averaged 5,114 fans a night last season, so they actually packed the barn a little bit more than what they listed. So that's insane for an ECHL team. A Double-A team pulling that kind of pull in the area is nuts. I know in baseball, which I love baseball personally, but in baseball, pulling that kind of seat in Double-A means that a former star has fallen way off and he's showing up and people just want to see it, maybe get an autograph or two, but they're not going to stay for the whole game. That's nuts. That's really nuts. If Utah sells that barn out in a preseason tilt, it proves something. It's not something big yet because we're only in year 1 of the Mammoth, but this team's identity isn't just Salt Lake, it's the entire region. And while we can't really point to that yet because there's just going to be a lot of curiosity, a lot of, hey, they're the new team, let's go watch them. If they can sustain that throughout the years, obviously huge. The NHL wants the Mammoth to be a regional powerhouse, which it certainly can be in a way that the Coyotes never were. And Idaho could be step 1 in building that footprint. Obviously, they're going to have to compete against the Kraken as well as the Colorado Avalanche and then the other West Coast teams like the Kings, the Sharks, even the Canucks. So there's a lot to play against here, but there's an opportunity too. And I mean, just look at how well the Utah Hockey Club drew last year that pretty much nobody was expecting. So, pretty exciting stuff in the preseason just to gauge the interest level for the Utah Mammoth. And I'm kind of excited to see how that happens on September 30th up in Boise, Idaho. Now, reclamation project, if you want to call him that, his second chance, maybe his final chance, Scott Perunovich, will he take advantage of this opportunity? He's one of the most intriguing signings. He's 27 years old defenseman, has only 108 NHL games under his belt with 30 career points. But the story isn't just that, it's his injuries. When he's healthy, he's actually a pretty darn good, I would say, borderline elite puck mover. I mean, look at last year, split between the Blues and the Islanders. He still managed 7 points in just 35 games as a defenseman and saw power play time. At just 5'10", he's not going to out-muscle people, but if Utah gives him a clean bill of health and sheltered minutes, so on the bottom rung of the defenseman there, he could become maybe a second or third power play unit quarterback. He's a low-risk, high-reward signing, and the Mammoth might just cash in. Among other things that the Utah Mammoth have done this offseason is just a lot of fitting around this young core, and Scott Perunovich is kind of on that same timeline as the young core just because of the lack of time he's been able to spend at the NHL level because of his injury history. But he is the same age-ish as Clayton Keller, so he's on the, I guess, the senior end of the team. That's crazy to say that a 27-year-old is old. But he is, when compared to the rest of the core, like a Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther, even the new draft picks, Tij Ginla, Caleb Desnoyers, Daniil Boot, Dmitry Simashev, the list goes on and on. So it is a chance for him to make some noise. And I do know that Utah wants to kind of move more into that youth movement. They do have, I've talked about this, I feel like, ad nauseum now, but they do have Ian Cole, Olli Mata. They have maybe even John Marino moves on, but they have some guys that could be moved for younger talent if the talent proves it's ready to play in the NHL. And Scott Perunovich has that chance this preseason, as well as Maverick Lamoureux and Dmitry Simashev. Those guys are going to be looking for getting some ice time in the big leagues as opposed to going to the AHL. But that is your Utah Mammoth Daily update for today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.